What's up, traders? Welcome to today's Equity Empire Chart Analysis session. When most investors are throwing darts, we're looking for clues in the charts. My name is John McHugh. I'm a former Wall Street analyst, hedge fund manager, and independent trader for the better part of 20 years. Today, we're going to be taking a look of several charts, and the chart suggestions are from my followers at my PelicanTrader account on the X.com platform. So I asked a little over a week ago if followers had some ideas they'd like some chart analysis on, and they came up with some great suggestions, so I'm going to get right into it right now. The first one is a suggestion from Diego, and that's NATL. NATL has been a very powerful stock. We're at all-time highs here, so there's not going to be any resistance. So all we're going to do here is we're going to look for support levels. And there's a support level right here. Little support level, 38.11 to 37.48. Another support level just below that, 36.67 to 35.20. Now, when you have two support levels that are that close to each other, you can either take either one for the trade, so entry 38.11, protective stop just below that level, or entry 36.67, protective stop just below 35.20, or you can combine the two and enter anywhere in the green area and have a protective stop just below the bottom of the green area, okay? So that's a couple different ways to structure a trade when you have two support levels so close to each other. And then there's another support level if you're a little more price sensitive and you'd be waiting for a pullback. I don't know if we're going to get one, but if that were the case, there is a support level right here, 31.81 to 29.09. And that one's really interesting because if you take a look at where we broke out, so where did we start the uptrend? We started the uptrend right when we broke above these two peaks right there, okay? And we broke above that structure right there, right? So there's resistance, bounced off it once, bounced off it twice, started an uptrend. So a pullback somewhere into the third support level would get really interesting if you got that opportunity. Once again, don't know if we're going to get that or not. But let's move forward. Thank you, Diego, for that suggestion. Interesting uptrend there. All right, let's move forward. Bull. So FF Nerd's asking about Bull and Rocket Mortgage. So Bull I did in a video a couple weeks ago, and the chart looked like this. I said there was support in the 12.98 range and resistance at 17.13. Bam! Bounced right off the resistance level, okay? So that was a valuable lesson from a couple weeks ago that played out. And that's the reason why you pay attention to resistance levels. You don't ignore them when you recognize that clue in the chart. And that got rejected and came back and tested the support level, okay? It didn't quite get to the support level, but a new one formed here. So we got a new support level at 14.32 to consider if we can get a pullback. Or you can be a little more patient and go for the next support level at 13.64. That was the original one. Bounce off one of those two levels and head higher to go back and try to retest the 17.13 resistance level. Okay, let's move on to RKT. RKT had a nice day on Friday after the Fed Reserve Chairman hinted that he was going to potentially cut rates next month. We'll see if that happens. Don't hold your breath. All right, support level right here, 17.63 to 16.68, and another support level below that, 15.19 to 14.43. So a couple support levels to consider. Now, if we get into a resistance level, this one gets pretty interesting because we're actually in a resistance level, okay? And that resistance level, didn't want to change that color there. Okay, resistance is right here, 1881 to 1982. So we bounced off it once after it formed, twice. We bounced off that level 3 times. So we have to consider that there are still remaining sellers in that price range. And then there's another resistance level just above it, okay? So we do have some work to do to get through some of this technical resistance, and it may take a rate cut to get through it, or maybe people start anticipating that rate cut and start driving it higher. So I'm not going to make any fundamental call here. I'm just going to point out the fact that there's 2 support levels and 2 resistance levels, and you can be looking to buy when you see green and looking to sell when you see red in general, okay? Let's move forward. Great suggestions, FF Nerd. 89 is asking about Qualcomm and United Health. 2 high-quality companies, both of them relatively interesting-looking discounted prices, okay? So let's get into the action here. There is a pretty meaningful resistance level in Qualcomm right here. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times we bounce off that resistance level. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, most recently. So that is a pretty firm-looking resistance level. We got to get above 164.39 to make any other technical progress. And there is another resistance level So the next target, if we can get above 164.39, would be right up here, okay? 173.39 to 176.65. Now let's go look for support if we got a chance for a deeper pullback, because we're still kind of struggling to get through this resistance. This is pretty firm here, so we got some work to do there. Let's see if there is a sell-off, if we can get an opportunity to pull back to one of these support levels. And there's a support level down here, 148.75 to 144.36, and then another one below that, 140.65 to 134.80. Okay, so we've got a ways to go before we find any really meaningful technical support. And like I said, we're bumping up against resistance on Qualcomm. So 2 support levels, 2 resistance levels for Qualcomm. United Health, see if we can get a better entry price than Warren Buffett. Actually, probably wasn't Warren buying that stock. One of his smart lieutenants is probably making a lot of those decisions today. But they did put a couple $1 billion into United Health. All right, let's find there's a support level down here, 234 to 251. I'm not sure if we're going to get back down there, since the whole world knows that Warren's potentially accumulating. At least got a toehold position. There's another support level right here, just below the breakout, that gap up on the Berkshire Hathaway Buffett news, 264 to 271 range. And we are right at a resistance level. We are at a resistance level, so we need to be aware of that. And we have to respect the fact that there could be remaining sellers in 316 to 327 price range. And then there's if we can get above 327, we got a big gap to fill. So it could be clear sailing if we can get above 327. We get some positive news here on these names, the health insurance names. The next resistance level wouldn't be up until 377 to 389, 390. Okay, so 2 support levels, 2 resistance levels for United Health. Thank you for the suggestions. 89. Let's move forward. Size asking about APLD and Tesla. APLD. I did a chart video on APLDs a couple months ago. I think we found support, but may have been stopped out on that one. But it's been very strong here. So let's go find new support and resistance levels. So there's a support level right down here, 13 to 1157, and then you got another support level right here, 1032 to 887. Okay, 2 support levels. I think we're pretty close to another resistance level on APLD also. So let's go take a look here. It's got to be above here to be a resistance. So we're going to look up and to the left, and yep, we're getting pretty close to a price. How do you recognize a resistance level? All you need to know is if price reversed direction, that's where the sellers started to overwhelm the buyers. That's called a resistance level, okay? Yeah. Upward progress found resistance, and why did you do that? Because the size available to sell was greater than the size to buy, okay? So that's a resistance level right here, 1827 to, call it 20 bucks, okay? So we're pretty close to that. This was just a visual aid here, that blue dash line. So once again, support down at 13-ish, resistance at 18 and change, and we're kind of in no man's land here. So there's not a whole lot else to work with unless you want to get a little more detailed on it. There's a little bit of support just above there. If you want to get a little more aggressive, I'll draw one more. And it's a great one because we didn't really blast out of that yet. But could be a little bit of support starting at 1464 if you want to be more aggressive. And why do I say that too? Just like one of the last charts here, that was the breakout point. So we broke out above that high, come back and test that breakout point, bam, bounce off that support level that happens to be right at the breakout point. So that actually is looking like a better support level now that I took a look at a little bit further left in the chart. Okay. All right, let's move forward. Thank you for the suggestions, side. Let's move forward. Crack9's asking about QS, QuantumScape. QuantumScape, look at that chart. So we ran from 4 to 15 and then pulled back to 8. This is an efficient market, right? Because efficient markets bounce around like 150%. Obviously, I'm being facetious here. The market in general is very largely efficient. Small cap stocks, not so much. Okay, we have a support level here in QS, 709 to 610. I'm going to actually make that zone a little bit bigger, 709 to 530. So we get a pull back to the 7 and change, maybe a bounce off that, or it could be a discounted entry price if you're looking to make a longer term position in QuantumScape. It's got pretty exciting technology, battery technology. And then resistance, we do have, well, we have to actually consider this 9 area resistance now because we couldn't make progress above it. So I'm actually going to draw it. It's not the most firm resistance, but got to respect it. So there is some kind of resistance right up here in the 9-ish range. If we can break above that, we could be moving a bunch higher all the way up to, let's just call it the 12, a little above 12. Okay, not a whole lot of resistance between, call it 10 and 12. So there is one support level, and there's another support level down there, but that's way down there, so I'm not going to look at that one right now. And 2 resistance level for QuantumScape. All right, thank you for the idea, Crack 9. Kunal's asked about 4 Chinese tech stocks, a basket of tech stocks. I'm going to do this quickly, running out of time here. So there is a resistance level. I'll do support first. There's a support level. We're in a sideways trend. We're in a sideways trend. You play ping pong. You buy green and sell in red. There's your support level. Resistance. Resistance level is right up here where we reversed last time, which we just touched today. So we just touched resistance level and got rejected from it, okay? So we got to break above 25.53 to go to the next resistance level. And the next resistance level could be all the way up at 30, okay? So if we can break above 25.50, then we could be making, about a 5-point move to the next resistance level. Support, you got some good-looking support. So there's actually some support just below the current support level, all the way down to here. So you got some pretty good-looking support. Buying the green, selling the red in general. This is not financial advice. This is just technical analysis. Okay? BIDU, BIDU, same thing, sideways trend. We got a support level right down here. Pretty big support level. Bounced off that a whole bunch of times. Can't even count how many times it bounced off that. And then we have resistance. Resistance right up here. 92.49 to 95.28. Bounced off once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. And we're in resistance, okay? So we got to work through that. And the next one above that would be right here. 97 to, call it 95.5. And then the next 103, okay? So ping pong between the green and the red. Next one, Alibaba. Sideways trend also. They tend to trend the same. Similar trends in these. Okay, support. We do have support in Alibaba right here, 117.23 to 113.67, and we got resistance. I'm only going to do one because we're running out of time here. Resistance, we're in resistance. Okay, trade between those two, and the next resistance level would be about 5 points higher, about four points higher, and that would I'll draw it here. Okay, that resistance level right here. 2 resistance, 1 support. The other support would be down here, 108 and change. Last name, NIO. Not to be confused with a matrix NIO. We do have support way down here, okay? This gets really interesting. A 25% move in a couple days into a resistance level is something you don't want to chase. First of all, you generally don't want to chase something that's up 25%. That's because I say generally, not all the time. But most of the time, if something's already up 25%, you're probably feeling FOMO. You're like, oh, wow, this thing's really moving. Don't want to miss out. Well, it's interesting because right when we ran into this resistance level right here, where did price reverse? I'd say there's 2 different resistance levels. So we broke through the first resistance level, but we got rejected from the second resistance level. Okay? Rejected at, that's pretty close to an evil number. Rejected at 668 and support at 510 to 480. Okay? Now, I would basically be expecting that until we break through 694, which we could real quickly, but this is looking like at least it found some temporary resistance there and got knocked back about 10% today, okay? So gap up into resistance, slap back down like whack-a-mole, okay? So support, wait for a support level to show up. We don't see one technically here yet. So the next one on the chart's down at 510. So this could be heading much higher, but I'd wait for more chart to develop to see if there's more support levels that show up. So 1 support, 1 resistance on NIO. Says, let's wrap up the session. We covered a lot of ground today. Great suggestions, everyone. Kunal, Crack 9, Sai, 89, FF Nerd, Diego. Awesome suggestions. There's some interesting looking trades in here, that's for sure. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'll be back each day or several times this week with more technical analysis. In the meantime, wishing you all the best of luck in your trading and investing.